Welcome to the SwimSwam Breakdown. As always, I'm your host, Coleman Hodges, coming to you from Columbia, Missouri at my mom's house. Taking care of her. I'm dog sitting for her this week. We are joined, as always, by SwimSwam Editor-in-Chief Braden Keith from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and senior international reporter Loretta Race from Kentucky. How's it going?
I guess it's true what our haters always say. We do all live in our mother's basements.
Except Loretta, who lives in her boutique.
My boutique, yes.
75. All right, we got a shortened news podcast for you today, so let's get right into it. Top of the list, Jake Mitchell, Michigan All-American, 2020 Olympian, transfers to Florida from Michigan. What do we think about this move?
I think it was the smart move, the obvious move. We can use all these different adjectives for it. I think really the personal pull of Virginia was the only thing that really could have interrupted this, because Florida has such a hot hand. And, you know, he's in an interesting position, right? Because he's an Olympian, but he's
from Michigan. The Michigan program made him an Olympian.
He trained at Carmel before the trials. So, you know, he's an Olympian, but he's an Olympian in probably America's weakest event. So in context of another race, am I wrong? Coleman, am I wrong? In context of another race, he's probably the third or fourth guy trying to get over that hill. You know, if we compare it to, he's not a serious medal contender right now at an Olympic or world championship level. So he's still, even though he's an Olympian, he's still trying to get over that hill, and going to train with Kieran Smith and Bobby Fink seems like an obvious way to get over that hill, because those are two guys who both got over that hill last year. So I think it's a smart move. We still got to figure out what the breakaway is going to be for Michigan. You know, they've had some good news. They've had probably more bad news than good news. We don't know if Wyatt Davis, which is Jake Mitchell's former high school teammate, is going to be back at Michigan. But the Michigan situation is an interesting one. You have to wonder if a coaching change is coming there or not. If it's not coming now, I would guess Bottom has one more year at tops to get things turned around.
But I do feel like, okay, Mitchell was an Olympian under Bottom. Like, he didn't just float there on his own. You know what I mean?
But isn't it bad news when a swimmer leaves your program to go train somewhere else to try to make the Olympics?
It could be the weather, Braden. It could
is the weather in Carmel, Indiana, better than the weather in Ann Arbor?
It literally could be anything. I mean, Bottom has revolutionized. Okay, he is the one that totally revolutionized freestyle. The three types of freestyle: hip driven, shoulder driven. You know what I mean? So he's absolutely on the cutting edge of technology and technique. So I don't think you can just write him off as this program sinking. I don't know what it is per se, but I personally don't think it's Mike Bottom.
Yeah, he's 66, so it might be time for that program to look.
Okay, Eddie, Texas, anyway. Boom.
Yeah, but not every swim coach needs to coach until they're 100 years old. I could do a whole podcast on swim coaches needing to learn how to retire.
Okay.
So talking to Jake, he did say one pull for him was that he had trained with Katie, with Bobby, with Kieran, and with Nesty. Yes. At Tokyo, leading up to the Olympics. He gave us one of the sets that he did the best on, which was pretty awesome. So I'm looking forward to maybe getting down there for some more pancakes and seeing the middle distance group just grow and grow in Gainesville.
God, when was the last time we were this excited about American middle distance swimming? And they're all in the same place. They're all in like two places, right?
That's true. Yeah, that is true.
And we saw another huge shift in middle distance freestyle. Not American, though. Matt Sates, just coming off of an NCAA title for Georgia, has been there for all of 2.5 months, goes home to South Africa for South African trials, and is not coming back He announced that he's going pro. What do we think about I feel like this is the first one and done we've seen in at least the last decade, right?
It's like the most one and done, right?
I called it. I totally thought he would not even go to Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So he did. Okay. And yes, I think he did. Okay. Fulfill that college, urge, got that check, mark done. For me personally, at the South African trials, he entered 9 events. Okay. He only qualified in the 200 free and the 200 IM. So out of 9 events, I don't know. It was a little bit underwhelming for me.
I think that could be, it's been a whirlwind of 3 months for him, back and forth across the ocean. Even his first trip to the US was delayed. So it almost feels to me as though, he hung on for what he could at NCAAs and that was it. And that's what he had for this season. And so now he's got kind of time to settle and regroup. And what's he got? 2 months to the day until Worlds start.
South Africa, they haven't revealed their entire roster. Yeah. So I would not be shocked if they inserted him, you know what I mean, for other events. That's just flat out outright what he qualified for.
When I spoke to him, he said, he made it sound like, I was like, what events are you swimming at Worlds? And he's like, well, 400 free, 200, 400. Like he made it sound he has no idea and he could swim a lot more events than just those 2.
Sure.
I think a lot of people were shocked by this departure just because they were excited. They really wanted to see what he could do in a proper 500 free, because anybody who wasn't paying attention, he basically said he miscounted his 500 and so he paced his 500. Still won the NCAA title. So I wish I could screw up that good. But people from South Africa, I think we're a little skeptical about this in the first place. I think a lot of South African coaches like to keep their athletes at home. You got the sense that he viewed himself more in the pro swimmer lifestyle than in the student athlete lifestyle, that the pro swimmer was more appealing to him than the school part of the equation. And we have to remember, we know that the NCAA has loosened rules on student athletes making money, but those rules haven't, they don't impact student visas. Student athletes, for the most part, are on the same visas as any other international student, which puts limitations on the kind of work that they can do while they're here. And so we're working on sort of really fine tuning that detail. And we're going to try to put out a report about exactly what that means for international student athletes. But there is a money decision to be made here now that he's on a student visa, which he wasn't, for example, in the World Cups in November, he wasn't on his student visa. So that wouldn't matter there because the NCAA may or may not care. We still don't know what prize money really means.
So, I love this decision. I love the comments. There are some hilarious comments that, Loretta, you kind of alluded to this earlier, but there are a few comments where he's just speed running a swimming career. Yeah. And he's just checking boxes at this point, like world junior record, check, World Cup title, check, NCAA title, check. Now he just needs to get an Olympic title, a world champ title, and retire as quick as he can.
I think a lot of people forget that South Africans are a lot of the time self-funded to go to these external meets. To go to world championships or even world junior championships, you are self-funded. So it's not as though you have this huge backing of USA Swimming behind you. So it's just, it's so easy for us to pick apart decisions when it's not the same for these athletes as it is, for USA Swimming, for example.
I think there's an angle to this that we frequently talk about, but maybe not enough. With Americans, we grow up with this dream of the NCAA. And so there's a lot of cultural pressure about making a commitment and doing the college swimming and getting your degree. And that culture is just different for somebody like Noah Ponte. And, he'll probably get a degree at some point, but he doesn't have to graduate high school, go get his degree while he's training. And that, it's not as regimented everywhere in the world, partially because their universities aren't as bloody expensive as ours are. So like the scholarship, it's not
that was
it's
totally
not the
British,
same
bloody
calculus with the scholarships. Yeah, that was my South African accent. Did you like it? So it's just a different culture. They're just doing something different.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the comments were kind of poking fun at it, but also being respectful of it and saying, hey, his decision, good for him. In other news, still college though, swimmers weren't the only ones making big moves. Jesse Moore announced that he is out as the head coach of Dartmouth, and we've also found out that he will probably be the new assistant for Cal. Braden, what do you think of this move for Jesse Moore?
It's a tough one, like we were just talking about, right? The cultural pressures, because the head coach of somebody at Dartmouth is asking people to commit and to show their allegiance, probably in blood, to the program that they coach. This is not a Jesse Moore thing. This is the way coaches act thing, especially college coaches. And so like we expect, some people get the idea that the coaches are making the same decision. I feel like this and the Sates thing are really sort of breaking down some of the fallacy of sport. Like, I feel like this whole blood, sweat, and tears and my life belongs to my swim team, we're creating a culture thing. Like, I understand why coaches do it, but I think athletes need to be a little more realistic about it. And maybe that would help with some of the mental health issues we're seeing if people had a little bit more perspective on it. But it's a positive move, right? You hate to see a coach leave a program after one season, especially as the head coach. But like, this is a step up in his career. This is absolutely a step up in his career. And for wherever he goes next, he's going to have head coaching experience, and he's going to have experience at one of the top programs in the country. So now that means in his next job, I don't know if that means his next job, it depends on how things go at Cal. Doesn't mean his next job is going to be head coach at Texas or head coach at Stanford, one of the top tier jobs, but his next position will be in the conversation, for example, for a program like Pitt or Notre Dame that we see open right now. So he's assembling a resume. He does move jobs a lot, but I don't know if ADs care about that in swimming. And he's building a ton of connections in the sport with a lot of very important and very well-respected people. And he's building a resume that's going to get him a phone call with an AD for most head coaching jobs. So good for him. I hope it works out. I hope Cal gets back on the upswing with Maggie McNeil next year. I hope Maggie gets back on track and gets healthy. I hope this all works out for everybody. I do understand the frustration of the Dartmouth athletes with him leaving after 1 year, though. Like, it's kind of like you understand everybody's perspective on it. And at the end of the day, it is what it is.
That was a good coaching take. And I think that's something that a lot of people miss, is that, at the end of the day, if you're a coach, you're building your career. And sometimes the coaching wheel just seems so brutal to me, but sometimes, a lot of times, that's just how it works. So moving on to international waters, dude, Flynn Southam, Australia, 16 years old, faster than Dressel and Chalmers. Loretta,
okay, I've been following him. Yes, I've been following him for the past 2 years. Okay, dude is a tier athlete. He's an absolute pro. He did not participate in the 2021 trials because he wanted to tend to his mental health. Okay, so he was mature enough to recognize, hey, I don't want to go for the 2020 Tokyo team. I want to just kind of take a step back, assess my life, kind of just, realize who I am. And he did that. And as paid dividends, he was 48, 60, 100 free. Okay, 16 years old, 48, 60, 100 free, broke Kyle Chalmers' record, the age record, which is phenomenal. But he was 23, 83, 24, 77. 24.77 on the way home, people.
That reminds me, who, I mean, a lot of the Australian 100 freestylers kind of swim that way, don't they? I mean, at least young, like Magnuson.
It seems like Magnuson and Chalmers.
Chalmers, yeah, both did
Don't
it.
mention Maggie. Oh my God, Maggie. I
You
know.
love Maggie.
I know.
Here's the most important Flynn Southam angle. If he's faster than Chalmers and Dressel at 16, he needs a nickname. And I don't think we can call him Prince Flynn because I think that's too obvious. I think we got to go Flying Flynn Southam.
It's not gonna stick.
Okay, I'll think about it. But he was also 146.76.
Do better, Coleman. Do better than Flying Flynn.
He was 146.77, 200 free. Listen, Ian Thorpe, okay, was 146.00. So this kid is within a second of Ian Thorpe, 200 free at 16 years old. That is like unheard of. Nobody has been within striking distance of that record in decades. I mean, I
can't wait to see Flynn Southam versus Thomas Heilman at the LA 2028 Olympics. I am already excited for
the Flintstone.
Good one, Coleman.
But okay, we have to keep things in perspective. Okay. Even with Flynn's 146.77, Popovich, what was he? 144.68 at the Olympics at the same age. So, you know what I mean? It's like as impressive as Southam is, there's still kind of a spectrum, and there's a Popovich and there's the Southam.
I'm still really curious when we're going to see these young swimmers who are so good at so many things, when it's going to become more obvious, like what their core event lineup will be, or if we're seeing a fundamental shift in swimming where that doesn't have to happen anymore.
God, I would love.
I mean, they're all pretty much freestyle.
Yeah.
They're all pretty much freestyle, except for whoever this Denmark kid is that I've
he's like,
that I've been reported on.
Yeah. It's exciting. It should be good. There's more Aussie news though. Titmus, Ariane Titmus, Olympic champion in the 2 and 4 free, not going to Worlds, joins Chalmers and McKeon in that boat. Let's talk about world champs. It's looking to be kind of weird. We got a lot of vacancies. The German roster was just announced in Loretta's words. It is teeny weeny from 29 down to 11, right? It seems like kind of a weird year, but it to me at least, it still seems like, at least for America, we're going to go there. We're sending an A team. A lot of countries are sending good athletes, and it seems like it's not even going to miss a beat almost.
Yeah, there's some big names missing. But when you start to look at the real medal contenders, it's still a pretty small fraction. And every world championships is missing a few names because of injuries and stuff.
Right.
I think it's still going to be a really good meet. I don't think it's going to turn into like short course worlds. What's interesting about this Commonwealth Games thing is you got to wonder at this point if Queen Elizabeth, we're all rooting for her to live to 150 years old, but there's only so many more Commonwealth cycles in her lifetime. And a lot of people, this is not me. This is not like my independent analysis. There are a lot of people that think this whole Commonwealth thing basically still exists because the Queen likes it, or because it's part of the Queen's legacy. I really wonder, once Queen Elizabeth is no longer the Queen of England, if this Commonwealth thing will dissolve.
My gosh.
That's my hot take for today. So they're putting all their eggs in think about the bidding even for this one. Nobody wanted it. It's like a hot potato.
But at the same time, like we just said, Titmus, Chalmers, McKeon, they are choosing, Commonwealth Games over World Championships. So
I think that's a short-term move. I think and maybe for like Emma at her age, that makes sense.
At her age, 27.
Yeah, but how many more is she going to go to? She'll be retired by the time the Commonwealth Games go away. They must know. I mean, they've all got agents, right? Like Rob Woodhouse is probably Emma's agent, and he must know that he must think or know that there's more money to be made by success at the Commonwealth Games. I'd really love, India has been doing good things in swimming. I would really love for India to become the swimming powerhouse that they have the potential to be with their population. Because if India figured it out, then the Commonwealth Games would suddenly become really exciting with Canada on the upswing, Australia being Australia,
Wales,
England being so good.
You have all these.
Yeah, but Wales will have one or two. Scotland will have one or two. It's really a Canada, England, Australia meet with a few
South Africa. South Africa.
Yeah.
Okay, shut him down. Go ahead.
I think if India got good, the Commonwealth Games would suddenly become best. It would become the best non-world championship meet in the world, which I think Euros is probably still.
Asian Games, but go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think Euros or Commonwealths will be the most, or Worlds will be the most exciting meet of the summer? I guess it's kind of Worlds definitely, but after Worlds, which do you think will be more exciting?
I don't think it's Worlds definitely. I truly do not think so. I honestly think Commonwealth with Chalmers, Titmus, and other people focusing on that particular competition, I don't know. I feel like that almost is going to.
They'll have to. I think they'll have to set records though to be exciting because there's not a lot of big showdowns, right? Like there's Duncan and Dean in the 200 free. Like what
Titmus
other big
400 free?
Titmus,
there you go.
That's a good one. Okay, so we're all going to be riveted by the women's 400 free, and that's going to make the whole meet exciting.
Thank you.
Wait,
there's Maggie McNeil if she gets healthy versus Emma in the 100 fly. There's not a ton of like big time slug outs to be had.
I wonder how Canada will handle the double. If
it's the same with it's the same with Great Britain. Really?
When are the Commonwealth Games?
End of July, beginning of August, like around the same time as our US nationals are. Okay. Maybe like a few days. I think
are they? Because that's when Worlds are.
No, Worlds are end of June.
Yeah, end of June. Yeah.
Yeah, and Com Games are end of July, beginning of August. So it's about 5 weeks, I believe, is the gap. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
So that is this week's news in swimming. Stay tuned though, because we are coming back in just days with our 2022 US trials previews on the men and women's side. Stay tuned.